And that takes me to the next portion, which is really about leadership. And I'm just going to say a few things because a lot of it I've said already. Leaders lift. When you think about leaders, we always think of pyramids with the leader at the top. It's like this. It is a pyramid, but the leader is at the bottom, lifting, holding up. The one you're not supposed to see, but you do. Leaders lift. This hierarchical structure is a press, and that's a different equation. So we need to flip this around. Leaders need to lift, not oppress. Kindness, respect, consideration, lifting, loving, those are the attributes of true leadership. Looking into people, seeing their potential, drawing it out of them. That's the attribute of true leadership. Do they know anything? Can they say it without a script? That's leadership, ladies and gentlemen, in every field, not just government. Do you really know it? Can you really say it? Could you explain it to a 5-year-old? And if you can't, you better be able to break down that language or go relearn it till you know it. Then you'll be creative again within your profession. You won't be a parrot in your profession. You'll be a creator within it. Or maybe you missed it. You missed your art altogether. It's never too late to change channels, reset your programming. But leadership, if they have no words of their own, they must have nothing to say. Think about it. How many speech writers do politicians have? How come they're not their own? Because they don't have anything to say. They make good faces. They look good on a 30-second spot or a 1-minute ad. They should listen deeply. They should look for understanding. They should try to understand their opposition well enough to see their own flaws and fix their legislation, or enough to be able to inform their adversary in that moment of where they're missing information. But that only happens if you respect each other. And in collective bargaining, when I was a union leader, one thing I was taught, you have one spokesperson at each side of the table, number one. And the other is you set up a set of ground rules, the rules of how you're going to do this. That's the first thing you do when you bargain, is what are the rules. Then the next thing you do is you have to have trust. Because if anybody's lying at the bargaining table, that's when the bargaining ends for me. Because you got to trust the other guy. Now he can tell you, nope, I'm not going to answer that, or no, I'm not going to provide that. That's fine. But an overt lie ends it all, because you got to trust the person you're negotiating with. You got to trust the people on the other side enough to know that you're dealing with an honest set of facts. If you don't have that, you don't have the basis of a democratic republic. You don't have the basis of anything that's going to get you to a solution. In my family, one of the ground rules was if you go to the thing with an argument, you better bring a solution. And the deal was you bring a solution in, then you're going to fight over solutions, you're going to get one at the end. Much better than a bitch session, which is what most people engage in, with a bunch of people sitting around complaining. So that isn't the answer. For Alaska, it was an opportunity of government by endowment. We still have it. I mean, we still have it with the resources that are here. If they continue to feed the permanent fund and build it, eventually there'll be a big enough fund that we'll never have to tax this population out of the wealth of the state. Why didn't we do that as a nation? Is it too late to do that as a nation? Maybe not. We still hold a lot of wealth in common. Let's not let it be looted by multinationals. Let's not let it be looted and squandered in the wrong way. As part of the Native Land Claim Settlement Act, one other thing happened. They had, my dad overrode, got the committee of Mo Udall, who was powerful at that time, overrode the committee, a freshman on a committee. That just doesn't happen. You got to get the majority of his own party basically to say, hey man, we're doing this. And he did. Unheard of for a freshman to get that big piece of legislation heard, but Udall had a plan. When Dad was gone, he executed it, and it was about 105 million acres of parks and wilderness areas that got locked up subsequently. And they got locked up with the idea that locked up forever was the theory, but remember, none of this is a treaty. It can be changed by any legislator any time, and it will be. Because the groups that backed that were the Rockefeller Foundation, Carnegie Foundation, a lot of industrial groups, and people went, man, that's so great. They're going green. They're supporting the environmental movement, locking up all this land. No, they weren't. What they were doing is make sure it was reserved for them. for multinational companies, and here's why. When you lock it up in parks and preserves, it takes it out of the BLM jurisdiction, which made it available to anyone over 18 that was an American citizen that could go out and stake mining claims. The areas they locked up were the richest in the state, absolutely rich. The Kantishna mining district, I was the last hard rock miner there in 1983, richest district, probably $1 trillion in resources in the Kantishna Hills, antimony, silver, gold, lead, zinc, a lot of stuff. Highly mineralized area. Where I was mining, the ore was 130 ounces of silver per ton, 1 to 10 ounces of gold per ton, and 15% lead by weight, and a trace of antimony, and which was used in batteries. And when you look at all that, that's a tremendous value per ton. We were flying it off the side of that mountain with a helicopter, loading it on 40-foot trucks and driving it 12 hours to Fairbanks to process it. And did it by hand, 26 days, 2 of us with picks and shovels. And then they shut that district down forever. That was the end of it. A shame, because the people mining on Quigley Ridge and the area that we were in and the whole region was fantastic. And it was a lifestyle. They were families living out there that would work for a month or 2 in the summer, take care of their family for the winter in one of the urban centers of Alaska. And it was a lifestyle that got taken as well from so many. And I was sort of there for the end of it. It's kind of the end of a lot of things in Alaska. But all those parks and preserves hold all of the mineral wealth, a lot of it. And one day, those will be exploited under national emergency. You watch. But it won't be you and me invited in, because we won't be able to respond to a national emergency. Only the multinationals will. You'll see it happen. Where it got reserved is the Native Americans on the Native Land Claims Settlement Act. That was before the state had even finished picking their lands. They got first pick. They got to pick first. And they did a good job, made sure they got some good mineral wealth, some good oil and gas based on their traditional boundaries, and they're going to do fine. Those that choose to develop their resources will do fine, and we'll all be the beneficiaries of it. But we need to move some more land out of government hands, at least the federal government hands, move it back into tribal government hands and into the state of Alaska's hands, because we got screwed on statehood. If they're not going to give us 90%, we need to redo this deal somehow. We need to reorganize it somehow, because it's just flatly unreasonable and unfair to have a statehood act that's not going to be honored.